Is it possible to become comatose, travel through time, and assume the life of another person 2,000 years into the future? On episode 1 of Created by Human, I'll tell you the story of Paul Dienach, whom, by his own account, apparently lives such a tale.
Created by Human.
Welcome to the Created by Human podcast. I'm your host, Todd Stevens. Joining me weekly per the usual, my co-hosts, Joshua Clodfelter and Tim Nagle. So today, on our very first episode, I'm going to tell you guys the story of Paul Dienach. Dienach was a Swiss...
Denuts?
No, not Denuts. Dienach.
Dienach, like duck.
Anyways, he's a Swiss-Australian humanities teacher who lived in Europe in the early 1900s. He fell into not one, but two comas. Get this. During his second coma, which lasted 1 year, Dienach claimed he traveled from 1921 to the year 3906.
I wonder if they had corn dogs.
That is a good question.
That is a great question.
I bet they did.
That would be the most interesting thing. It's what kind of food would they have?
Right.
That's what you'd want. You'd want to travel 2,000 years into the future just to see what kind of food they have. You know it's all in plastic containers.
Yeah, something. Or either that or they've really invented something cool. Like it's a corn dog, but with, you name it, like some sort of magic added to it, right? Yeah. Yes.
Or maybe it's a corn dog where the cornbread is inside the wiener. So it's like an inverted corn dog.
Right. It probably is. It's probably and pizza, maybe pizza has corn dogs on them, Pizza could have like chocolate,
nice.
or some new fruit that we haven't thought of, peaches.
But that is an interesting concept. Let's think about that for a nanosecond. How much does food change over generations?
The food that our parents grew up with is totally different than the processed packaged food that we've grown up with. I'm Gen X, Tim, Gen X.
Yeah.
Josh.
Gen Y.
Gen Y. Is that a thing? Is Gen Y even a thing?
I thought it is.
Gen Y in the beginning, and then it turned to millennials.
Oh, so you're millennial. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, that is fascinating. So what would the food look like 2,000 years in the future?
Did Dienach say anything about it?
No, Dienach didn't talk about food at all, so I don't know why we're even talking about this. So anyways, let's get back to the story. Dienach maintained that he woke in the body of Andreas Northam in the future, which supposedly was a well-known occurrence referred to as conscious slide.
So he quantum leaped.
Well, yeah. Yeah, he basically quantum leaped. Once he was in the body of Northam, Dienach received information foretelling events thousands of years into the future. Before his death, Dienach turned over his notes filled with the information during his time as Northam to a student of his named George, who eventually would translate them into Greek from Dienach's native German.
Wait, say that again? He's in this guy in the future who, speaks Greek?
No, he woke up in the year 3906 in the body of Andreas Northam. Mm-hmm. Before he died, he turned over all of his handwritten information to a student of his named George. George would eventually translate that from German to Greek. This collection of Dienach's notes was released as a novel under the name Chronicles of the Future in the 1970s.
That's a good title.
Yeah, it's a great title.
That's a strong title.
Very strong title. Yeah, that's a manly man's title. The Chronicles of the Future. This episode is sponsored by Advance Merch. If you're a brand, band, or business, Advance Merch can service all of your custom decorated apparel, design, and fulfillment needs. From in-house screen printing and embroidery to full-service e-commerce development and support, Advance Merch is a one-stop shop for all your custom merchandise. Visit Advance Merch for additional information and submit a quote request today. Mention Created by Human to receive 10% off your first custom apparel order. Dienach was supposedly living in Switzerland and teaching humanities courses as a professor when he fell into a coma in the year 1917. So referred to by Dienach as a lethargy. That's what he said it was in his notes.
I see.
He remained in this first coma for 14 days before regaining consciousness. The professor's health never quite rebounded from this earlier sickness, and Dienach later would fall into another coma.
On purpose?
Not on purpose, no. It was on his second coma. It lasted from the year 1921 until 1922. Although this coma was one that changed Dienach's life, he kept all of the details to himself before beginning to write it all out in his diary. Otherwise, he just wrote it all down in his notes. He didn't want anybody else to know about it because it sounded crazy. It sounded insane.
It is crazy. It's crazy.
When Dienach awoke from his coma a year later, he considered telling a priest about his experience during this year-long coma, but was really unable to bring himself to do so. Because I mean, think about it, guys. Like, who's going to believe this story? I traveled 2,000 years in the future, assumed the life of some other person, lived in that life for a year, and then came back to this.
8 hot dogs that were inverted.
8 inverted hot dogs. Because, dude, come on, it's the year 3,906. Who doesn't eat inverted hot dogs? What are you, loser?
That's how they do it.
Did he mention anything about if this place were Narnia?
No, I don't think it was Narnia. But
because it sounds a lot like, how they all went and they came back and it was like no time has passed and nobody would believe them.
So yeah, this story goes back to 1921, 22. So when was Chronicles of Narnia?
1950, not even on the scene yet.
So Josh, interesting point though. Could this story have played a part in the Chronicles of Narnia and the writing of it? For the longest time, I had this running theory that every night when you go to sleep and you have these fascinating dreams, and it seems like this dream goes on and on forever, right? And it's this whole story of your life unfolding. And that at some part in these dreams, we end up dying in the dreams or we whatever, something happens in the dreams. I always had this theory though is, what if every dream, every night, we're living an entire lifetime somewhere else, some other parallel universe? So, it just, when you think about it, like dreaming and just how the mind works, it's quite fascinating. So, when you think about Dienach's story, as he falls into this coma, does he just have such an active imagination that the stories that he comes back with are believable to him? Or is it possible that it happened?
Boy, I mean, only time will tell, right? I mean, because I'm looking at the story a little bit here. I mean, we don't have anything that's close enough to even say, wow, that guy actually was there. In fact, let's see, he says there's a couple things. In 2309, the whole population of Europe is extinguished by a nuclear war. We're not going to see that. We won't have any way to verify it.
Right, exactly.
If it doesn't happen, no biggie.
Dienach detailed his story in his diaries to keep record of his coma experience for posterity, really. Some sources say that he wrote out the details immediately after waking from the coma in 1922. He had feared that people might see him as mentally ill. Hey, I was in a coma before, but I didn't remember anything over those 14 days. There was nothing. But then I went into this second coma, and now I've got this vivid story of what's going on. And people aren't going to buy that, right? People are going to be like, well, dude, why didn't you have it on the first? But, that's his claim. And that was his fear of not telling anybody. He was like, if I didn't say anything about the first coma, you're not going to believe anything that's going to happen with this second one. So, I mean, I might as well just keep my mouth shut. I'm just going to write all this stuff down.
If anything, it'll make for good science fiction.
He wrote about waking in an unfamiliar room as a man named Andreas Northam, as I had mentioned before. He was speaking to people who looked astonished at the language that he spoke. Like, apparently he's speaking German.
And probably an old-timey version.
Right. And they may have some other universal language. I mean, we're talking 2,000 years from his. Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, who knows what it could be? So in the future, he wakes up and he wakes up in this other man's body, Northam, and apparently he wakes up speaking German. And everyone around him's like, what is this guy even saying? Which is kind of weird because, I mean, wouldn't you imagine we even know that people spoke other languages that are no longer really in dialect today. So 2,000 years from now, they'd be like, oh yeah, this is German. Go get Betty from accounting. She knows German. That old lady.
Yeah, right. Oh, I think, her great ancestors spoke that long ago, and she remembers it a little bit. I have a theory, Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to interject. Here's what I think happened. Now, I knew this weird sage type guy, this real cool hippie guy, this, his name was, I better not say his name. This friend, we'll call him Jake. His name wasn't Jake, but he basically told me that when he got into lucid dreaming or lucid states, he could leave his body. And now he would tell you that leaving your body, if you get good at it, you can travel back and forth in time, right?
Right.
So perhaps, if that's the case, could you interdimensionally travel through time in your lucid state and then technically, what would you call it? Possess somebody's body. Let's say they were in a state of dying, like this Andreas Northam. Could my celestial traveling, I go, oh, look at this guy, he's dying. Oh, this is my chance to try that out, right? Go into his body and control his puppet. You know what I mean? His meat and bone structure for a bit. Maybe that's it.
I mean, I guess you could say a soul being removed from a physical body and replaced with another. And even in this story here about Dienach and Andreas, like what happened to Andreas?
That's what I want to know, right?
Right. Where did he go for the time? Was he shot back to 1921?
That's
was he the one who was comatose in 1921, kind of in a holding pattern?
And here's the other side of that. Where is Andreas Northam's family right now? We could be one of the descendants, great grandpas of an Andreas Northam. We don't even know it.
You don't even know. You wouldn't have a clue.
We don't even know.
Know.
We have no clue. You could be his great uncle.
It's quite possible. Well, I think 2,000 years, though, I mean, there's probably a lot of greats that come before. Great. Yeah. But, I mean, I don't know.
Blows your mind, though, to think about it, right?
It does. I mean, I'm probably a future president's great-grandfather.
You probably are.
I mean, I'm sure that I am.
You got the genes.
I've got it in the genes. Yeah, I was looking in the mirror the other day, and I was like, yeah, I'm probably a future president's great-grandfather.
Like Lincoln. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, like a future Lincoln. Game changer.
My mom, if she were alive, she would tell you right now that we're related to Benjamin Franklin.
Your family is.
So.
Is it true? Or?
I guess.
That's what she said.
Be. She always brought it up. I guess so. But, Benjamin Franklin probably did get around. He was a pretty surly.
He's probably quite a hoe of a man.
Yeah.
He's all like, hey, chicks, check out me kite. Hey, look at me kite in the sky. Want to bang?
I like his Cockney accent.
Well, that's how he is. Hey, look at me over here. Want to bang? I'm flying my kite.
The electricity.
Oh, God.
I'm Benjamin Franklin.
All right, hold on a second. Check this out. I'm gonna tie a string around this key, fly this kite in the sky, and then maybe some lightning will strike, and bam, electricity. Let's bang.
Let's bang. Let's
bang. Let's do it.
And he had a newspaper. He was like Brian Williams or Peter Jennings. He was the local news.
He was, man. He was big
Tom
deal.
Brokaw.
This is Ben Franklin. Evening News.
He was the original podcast.
Let's bang.
Let's bang. Any girls out there? Here's my address. And speaking of food, we were talking about food earlier. The evolution of food is interesting because there are books you can read about Benjamin Franklin and people in that day and what they would do for dinner and what they would do for lunch. It was basically like kind of difficult to eat back then. It wasn't easy, right? It was so much more like, oh, good, here's the stale bread from a week ago that's not bad. I have to just kind of heat it over a stove and, oh, wow, I got some fish today, from the market. You didn't have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That wasn't really brought in until like the 1950s, that whole notion of breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
No, that's very true, where you just kind of ate when you could, right?
Yeah, you had what you had.
Do you think Ben Franklin was also the type of guy who was like, hey, honey, look, I went out and got some rabbits for us today? No. Okay.
No. He had to go to the Boston market.
He went to the Boston market and ordered a sandwich. Oh, so here at the Boston market, I like it. Is that even how Benjamin Franklin would sound? Like, how would he sound?
I don't know.
I
That's a
think
good
he would sound a
question.
little classier.
You think? Well, that's the thing. Do you think he's like,
Benjamin Franklin.
I'm Benjamin Franklin?
Benjamin Franklin.
Oh yeah, Benjamin Franklin.
He probably had a very light voice, and we just don't know it.
You think so? You think?
No. You play the Josh. You play the part of his wife. I'm gonna be. We're both. Tim and I are gonna be Benjamin Franklin. Okay.
Yeah.
Get to work, honey.
You need to go get a steak from the Boston market.
Boston Market's closed. It's 10:49 p.m.
And go gill me a rabbit.
I don't know how to do that. Hunter Joe would do that.
Hunter Joe. Come get this rabbit.
Were they British? I mean, I guess
I don't know.
I guess
he
they
was.
would probably have a British accent at that
Well, they
time.
all came from over there, so I don't know.
If anything, their parents. It's funny how we do when we talk about the founding fathers. We think of them as like such masculine men. You don't know what these men were like. We don't know.
Maybe Benjamin Franklin sounded like that senator from South Carolina. What's his name? But, everybody's always kind of giving him crap for the way he talks. Lindsey Graham. That's it.
Lindsey Graham. Oh,
Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
People always making fun of Lindsey Graham. He's kind of got that high voice.
Hey, guys, listen.
Hey guys.
Guys, I am fed up with Trump.
He's the stupidest.
I do not agree with him. Now I agree with him, but I didn't then.
Well, before, when he was talking about taking some shit away that I liked, I was like, I'm not for this asshole. But when he started taking other people's shit away, I was like, fuck yeah.
I
I'm
like
in.
this asshole.
This
Now I
asshole's
like
real
him.
nice.
Now I love him.
I love him so much. I drink that Trump water. I eat them Trump steaks. I do it all. Everything Trump.
I love him. But he better stay on my good list.
You better stay on my good list.
Bless
that's for
his
sure.
heart. How many are there? I mean, how many Lindsays are there that are male out there? That's the true question.
Lindsey Graham.
There's Lindsey Graham.
Lindsay, is that like? No, that's like Scottish or something.
Lindsay? No, it's just a chick's name.
Nah.
Nah.
It's just a chick's name. Let's look and see how many. Here we go.
What's Google say?
There's a Lindsay Tippins,
No, that's
member
not
of the
right.
Georgia State Senate.
That can't be right.
Yeah, Lindsay Tippins.
So we got
Picture of him right
we
here.
got two male Lindsays in the Senate right
they're
now?
both in a Congress. Yeah,
Oh, look at that.
Lindsay.
Popular than I thought.
Hey,
This
this guy was a good-looking man. I'm not ashamed to say that. This Paul dude.
Paul
There's a
Dienach?
picture of him. This Paul Dienach guy. He looks like a GQ model.
How do you spell the last name?
Dienach. His Amadeus.
Joshua, I spelled Dienach. D-I-E. Oh, sorry, I messed up, Josh. It's D-I-E. Enoch. Oh, Paul Dienach. You
Look at Paul.
devilish guy.
Nice hair. I wonder if he's really, does he really have yellowy skin like that?
No, Josh, I think the photo is just old.
Yeah, that's just an old photo.
Yeah, it's just an old photo, Josh. Don't worry.
Unless his liver was just bad.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That'll get you.
Probably was back in the day.
Speaking of that, though, so due to his poor health, he actually relocates in 1922. Obviously, once he's back in his original Dienach body, he relocates in 1922 to teach in Greece because he falls ill of tuberculosis. This is where he met his student, George.
Ah.
So he's going to play a big part in sharing the professor's story. While in the climate in Greece initially helped with his illness, Dienach moved to Italy about 2 years later. Only then did Dienach hand his notes over to George, basically. So after a year, he moves to Italy because he's like, screw this, Greece is lame. Then he goes to Italy. In Italy, he links up with George again. He gives George all of his notes.
By the way, as you were talking about George, I was reading more about Andreas Northam. Get this.
Yeah.
Andreas Northam, who was in the hospital recovering after an accident. This is Andreas now.
Mm-hmm.
The accident happened with the collision of what Dienach describes. Dienach describes as flying cars of the future.
Oh, man. We're almost there,
We
guys.
get flying cars.
We're almost there.
We get flying cars.
We get them. They're coming.
It's about dang time.
It's about dang time in a couple more thousand years. I can't wait.
And here's that guy has an accident with flying cars. Andreas was amazed by the technology present in the hospital as well as the futuristic uniforms worn by medics.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. You're jumping a little ahead of my story.
I'm sorry.
You're
got
just
me
so
interested.
excited, aren't you?
I'm just trying to help you out here.
No. I appreciate it.
Were you going to talk about the
I might get to some of this. I don't know. I might skip it now.
Oh, my gosh. Todd, I'm sorry.
I got a whole story laid out here, bro.
Oh, my Lord. I'm ruining it. I'm endangering the mission.
So let's go through the story.
Okay.
All right. So after Dienach handed over his notes to George, he ultimately passed away from tuberculosis in 1924. That was it. No more Dienach. Gone. Bye, Dienach. George read Dienach's fantastic story and translated it from German to Greek, which he had mentioned before, over the course of 14 years. It took him 14 years to translate this. Okay. He might have been busy. He's probably busy, right? It would be another 32 years before the contents of Dienach's notes were released to the public under the name Valley of the Roses. Also a dope band name, right? Valley of the Roses.
Valley of the Roses?
Valley of the
You're
Roses.
going to stake...
No, it's Valley of the Roses.
That's a long title.
It's long titles are in right now.
I know, but okay. But you think about band posters, right? Valley of the Roses. That's a lot to put on there. Anyway, that's another topic.
But okay. So Valley of the Roses, and then in English that translates to Chronicles of the Future, right? So that's where we get that title from. During these 14 years spent translating Dienach's notes, George hit many roadblocks. Such as the military confiscating the notes in 1944 due to them being in German initially, right? That's nuts, right? So that's right around, we're still in World War II in 1944. So this could be possible. They don't want any German information getting out and being translated into any other language, right? Because they're trying to keep everything somewhat hush-hush.
Yeah. It's incredible.
It is, Tim, it is incredible.
I just am so in love with this.
Right? Are you feeling this? Josh, are you feeling this?
Oh, I love this guy.
Yeah.
Wish he were my uncle.
He might be.
Maybe Andreas Northam is your great nephew.
Ooh.
Oh.
Could be.
Yeah.
George, we talked about these roadblocks that George hit. George also lost some of the notes to a Freemason friend who believed that they held secrets too powerful to let go.
Freemasons always make their way in somewhere.
Now, come on, those guys.
Those guys, come on, man. I thought they were just like, the Shriners on, just...
They are.
Driving small cars and, smiling with their cool hats.
I know a couple of them, and they're not... They're not trying to take over the world and
but you're talking about
work with aliens.
That's like the Knights, the Knights Templar, and
But these
interesting. Interesting though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got this Freemason friend, steals some of the notes, right? Like that.
Does the Vatican show up?
No, the Vatican doesn't show up.
They don't care.
Not yet. George heard rumor or had findings that the professor's name, Paul Dienach, may have been fake.
The stories that Paul Dienach himself is fake?
That George knew Paul Dienach.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But he's saying
what
that
he thought
his name,
was Paul.
Right, he's saying that his name may have never been Paul Dienach.
Oh man. Oh, who's that? Who's that time traveler? He pops up every once in a while. He's some kind of count.
Dracula?
No, not. There's some people who kind of they think that Count Dracula was inspired by this guy. He pops up in different parts of history.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
something.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Saint Germain.
I think that's a possibility. By the way, that whole thing. That's a real thing. I think that there could be somebody that's just old
playing with us.
Yeah. And
possible.
The reason they are is, could be, well, heck, let's say it was like Jesus resurrects Lazarus, right? What if Lazarus is still walking around?
Walking around.
Never died again.
I love that idea. That's a cool idea.
It's probably not,
but that's the whole idea.
But that's the premise.
When you mentioned that that's not his real name, the Count of Saint Germain. I'm not going to get into it, but the fact is that he kind of pops up, and so he might go by a different name.
Paul Dienach is really Saint Germain.
He could be.
Yeah,
I never know.
There's no notes of that in this story, but who knows?
So what happens? So what does George do? What does he's like, so wait, who was my professor, really?
So that it just kind of leaves it at that, right? That George thinks his name is fake. Let's hear what he remembers from the year 3906. Dienach awoke in an unrecognizable hospital where he was surrounded by faces he didn't recognize. He claimed the hospital had crystal walls and heard a celestial melody coming from somewhere.
Celestial melody, huh?
I mean, but isn't that what we all think about, like the future, like, right? Like it's crystal walls and a beautiful song and flying cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to go the other way, where everything kind of goes back to a more natural state. That excites me more.
There's crystal walls when he awakes, and there's a celestial melody coming from somewhere. When Dienach supposedly saw another man's reflection in the mirror, he passed out.
Oh, well, I would too.
Right? So again, kind of going back to your Quantum Leap. Did Quantum Leap hear this story? And they were like, this would make a great show.
This is what our show
is. Bam. Quantum Leap.
Boom. Easy. He's got the crystal walls.
Yeah, he's got these crystal walls, a celestial melody. He wakes up, sees another man's reflection in the mirror, and passes out. Eventually, physician Johannes Jaeger and Professor Molson let him know.
Wait, are these the future guys?
These are the future guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Johannes Jaeger, I think I'm pronouncing that. I have no idea. And Professor Molson, that's pretty simple, lets him know that it's the year 3906 and that he was in the body of a man named Andreas Northam. So Northam, as you stated earlier, Northam was in an accident, apparently a car accident. And in this, it says he became frozen and was revived, but Dienach's consciousness had entered his body.
I mean, there it is.
There it is.
I think Dienach was traveling in the spiritual realm.
Spiritual world.
Spiritual realm.
Spiritual world.
Did I say it like that? Spiritual.
She's a
Spiritual. Yeah. That's a young Guns. I love that. We're in the spirit world. They can't touch us. Hey guys, do you see the size of that chicken? Great movie. Great movie. But yeah, that he totally left his body. Time has no more relevance at that point in the spiritual dimension, let's say. And he's skipping along, doesn't know what he's doing, enters into our Andreas's body on a whim, and basically demonically, quote in quotes, demonically possesses the guy. That's what happened. It's got to be. All the while still connected by a silver cord. To his original body. Yeah, that's when people leave their bodies, they have a silver thread that still connects them to
from
their body.
Astral projection.
From astral projection.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard this many times.
You're right. And it keeps the body attached to the spirit.
Right.
And that if that is severed,
you're gone.
You can't come back.
So I don't know if you remember earlier in the podcast when I was bringing up Jake, we'll call him Jake. He used to tell me that he would travel out of his body and go into space and occasionally would be talked to by a being that would tell him, what are you doing? Like, oh, hey, what are you doing? Like, this isn't good. Like, you're like a little baby. Why are you out here? This is not for you, right?
Where's your mom?
Right. And the being would tell him, well, whatever the case is, don't go to suns, any kind of star in your form. What he would basically tell me was that if you do that, it's a warp to another dimension or something, and you would snap your silver cord, you'd die. Now, I don't know. Is this guy basically, is his name even Jake, right?
Right. His name's probably not even.
It's not, but whatever I'm saying, is he just telling me a bunch of garbage, or did he actually experience it? And if he did, then maybe this Paul Dienach thing starts to make more sense. time travels, he could travel through time in his state.
And that's a great thing too, is, as you try to wrap your head around even time travel, what is it? Is it a state of mind? Right?
Yeah.
I think we all try to think that it is we hop in a machine, we're moved forward or back in time, and we get out and we're living in 1980. I don't know that it's necessarily that. It might be that we inhabit bodies. I don't know.
The question is, did he inhabit a body, or was this some kind of more vision? Because, I mean, I'm sure y'all have somewhat told the future in your dreams. I've had dreams where I've thought of someone and the next day I see them and they're in the same clothes.
Right?
Yeah.
Is this something where this was a kind of a vision that he was in? I mean, he obviously thought he was in a body, or did he think he literally was in someone else's body?
When we fall asleep and we have our dreams, we live these dreams that seem like a day or a lifetime. And it's really only been minutes, maybe an hour.
Like that.
Right?
Not even that.
So even think about this, with him being comatose, maybe it was just a mental thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe there's something more to it. And the reason I say that is, think about somebody on the verge of death, an elderly person on the verge of death. They're lying in the hospital bed. They start seeing, smiling, and communicating with something we can't see. But that is 100% real to them. So who's to know? So back to the story. A gentleman by the name of Stefan, who was a close friend with Northam, had met Dienach via Professor Molson. So Stefan witnessed Dienach write and declared his handwriting was totally different than his friend Northam. It wasn't even the same handwriting. So Stefan decided to befriend Dienach and give him information about Northam's life before exposing him to greater truths about 2,000 years into the future.
Man.
Dienach claimed he spent his days split between learning with Stefan, who was Northam's best friend, and with Dr. Molson before reading through the nights. And Dienach did not sleep. This is one thing you guys have to understand. In this 1 year that he spent in the future, he suffered from insomnia, meaning that for 1 year did not sleep in the future.
I mean, it's got to be very difficult to sleep in a city where all the walls are crystal.
They're all crystal. Because, I mean, dude, Josh, have you ever taken crystal meth and tried to sleep? It's nearly impossible, dude. It's nearly impossible. And then you're up all night like this.
And then you'd have Benjamin Franklin, of course.
You'd have Benjamin Franklin, who's all like, okay, to the right thing. Freaking.
Let's bang.
Let's bang.
Let's bang.
Let's bang it out.
Hey, I just made an electricity over in the corner. Let's bang.
Let's.
That's our callback. Benjamin Franklin callback. Well, and here's the other thing. Let's say that this time traveler, Paul, perhaps the corn dogs that are inverted gave him major gas, major stomach stuff.
Couldn't sleep.
And that
Couldn't sleep.
That helped with his
I just want to go home.
I just want to get back to the normal food.
Gosh.
Very interesting stuff, though. So he's got drugs of the future. He can't sleep. He is, I mean, let's be honest, the glow of the heavenly city that's surrounding the hospital is probably just, I mean, wouldn't that jazz you up if you came from the early 1900s?
Oh, I mean,
wouldn't you be like, oh, I can't sleep.
I can't sleep. This is too amazing. I can't sleep. So Dienach claimed he finally overcame his insomnia in Northam's body in the future, waking up back in 1922 from his coma. So what had happened here is he again for 1 year had insomnia and he was meeting with this doctor and he was meeting with Stefan, and then they were like, hey dude, you got to come to this place with us. This is almost like just a relaxation place, a meditation place. So he finally goes there, and for the first time within this year's period of time, he feels at peace. And when he feels at peace, he ends up falling asleep. That one time that he fell asleep, when he awakes from that nap, he's back in 1922. And he went back to his life, pondered the information he allegedly learned from Northam, his friends, and society in the future. Like, he just thought about all of it, right?
Yeah.
He began writing down his entire experience and these non-specific predictions, these historical events to come over the next 2,000 years. Like he started writing down all this stuff to say, here's what's going to come, right? And people believed that he was a prophet,
without a doubt.
Without a doubt, right?
Doubt. Well, anybody that is claiming such things, we're all going to be like, okay, that date I'm going to put in my calendar if it's possible, and I'm going to check. I'm going to check his work.
I'm going to check his work. And that's the thing is some of these dates that he throws out there are way in advance. Like these dates that he throws out.
That's the thing.
They're so in advance, right?
Yeah.
Again, supposedly some of these Freemasons felt like Dienach was a prophet, and they coveted his translated notes as powerful information, right? Like the church in Greece labeled Dienach as a heretic.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, 100%. And they sought to basically bury the book from all potential readers. They were just going to bury the whole thing.
Paul Dienach is getting the same treatment because they're like, we have no idea. We thought that Jesus would come back by then, by the year 2000 something. Right.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean,
we don't want to deal with this 3000 stuff.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And like I had said, basically the church in Greece was there to bury this book, this diary of Dienach. And it actually worked. But the diary resurfaced again in 1979 with a second edition that remains convoluted and difficult to read due to the mixing of timelines in Dienach's writings. Right. So in 2005, a gentleman named Syrigos translated the Greek version of Dienach's story into English. And the release of this in English generated a whole new audience. And that's
are we getting a New York Times bestseller out of this?
I mean, I think we are. Did
the one dude you just mentioned, the guy who translated
Syrigos?
Yeah, did he get a...
No, unfortunately he didn't.
It sounds like a Ridley Scott movie to me.
I mean, so there's a lot going on here. He goes to the future, he's in a coma. He goes to the future. He's awake for 1 year and learns all this information. And there's crystal meth walls and flying cars and inverted hot dogs. And then, he finally finds peace 1 year in, falls asleep and wakes back up and starts jotting all this stuff down.
Coincidentally, he goes back to this peaceful state, right? Where he's back in tune with the he's snaps back that silver cord.
Right back.
He's back into his body. I bet it hurt too.
It probably did. It was like a rubber band smacked against your neck. You know what I mean?
Just smacked right back into his body.
Good Lord, here I am.
Oh shoot! I'm in 1927 again.
This place sucks. Where's my meth?
Where's my crystal walls? Dang it! I shouldn't have taken that nap.
So again, like, what information did Dienach bring back from the future? Right?
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked, Tim.
Yes, please.
And Josh.
Yes. Should I ask?
Yeah.
I mean, better to have it than not. So Todd, what did he bring back from the future? What knowledge?
Just crystal meth. That's all. That's all he brought back was crystal meth.
Well, that sucks. That's
we got
why
that.
They know how to make it because of Paul Dienach.
Thanks, Paul.
You take an eye of newt, lithium battery acid. That's pretty crazy instructions. Maybe crystal meth then is the drug of the future.
Maybe we're just not ready for it right now.
We're not there, yeah.
Right. Like in the future, it's like now we're so intelligent, we're so above everything that, all we want to do is get high.
Just calms us down a skosh,
So that does go into some of the things that he claims happened in this period of time. Apparently, from the year 2000, which is our time, until the year 2300, humanity remains locked in a battle with its self-made problems, such as overpopulation, ecosystem destruction. People aren't developing spiritually as they fight to survive financially. Kind of sounds like today.
Kind of sounds like our problem.
So what's freaky about that, though, is if today is the year 2022, and we're saying this is until 2300, is that how this is going to be and only worse? I don't know. Thanks, Paul.
I have a feeling that that's going to be the case. any kind of time travel, right? We know that there are occasionally time travelers show up and they do their little spiel on YouTube and they show us a blurry picture of the future or whatever. My thing is, what time arc are they on? Branch. Because this could be, see, here's the other side of this, right? It might not be our future, but a future of a different timeline, a different multiverse.
That's very true.
So this is the thing with
Alternate
time travel
reality.
and all these. Whatever he saw, was it in our arc? Was it in our timeline, or did he jump a timeline over?
Sure, and that's a fantastic point. I mean, if you think about even the whole butterfly effect, if one thing changes,
Right.
The theory too is that it creates just a multitude of endless possibilities, of endless timelines. And so each one of those timelines a parallel plane. It's just something fascinating to think about. Like if I woke up this morning and I had, somewhat of a heartburn, but in this reality that I've continued on down the path, it was just heartburn. But in an alternate reality, I died. And my wife and kids had to grieve the death of me. But I don't know because I'm continuing on. And is that what it is? Do we always continue on? I don't know.
But you get my point.
Yes.
Maybe he didn't. This is the thing about all this is that it's obviously it's hard to prove. We're not going to sit here and prove it today at all. But then again, what if he's not in our future? It's a future that's in an alternate universe where everything goes right, and so it's the story for that timeline, right? Mm-hmm. There's a real thought there. You get these guys who constantly come back and talk about the future that they were in. And it's like, well, okay, one, this could all be just a dream that you dreamed up. Mm-hmm. Or two, it could be the future you were at, but which one? Was it ours?
Which
could
one?
Not be.
Right?
It may not ever, we'll never know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
we're all going to die before we'll see it. But that's another thought,
No, absolutely. Great thought.
It's like, and I know what I was going to say, but the YouTube guys, right? They come in and they give us the blurry picture, and then they say, in 2022, aliens are going to definitely show up, and they're definitely going to take over, whatever. And then, of course, 2022, the date they tell us comes up, nothing happens, and we're all like, yeah, that was stupid. But did it happen in an alternate universe?
Well, exactly.
Did the alien invasion happen in that?
Tim, I'm going to one-up you on that question.
Is
there any way, if you're from the future and you time travel into the past, is there any way for it to be on the same timeline? Is it regardless? Right. Is the only way to time travel to be on an alternate timeline? Because this timeline's already happened. I mean, we do know, milliseconds or millions of milliseconds? Our eyes, it takes for something to come into our eyes, hit our brain, be processed in the back of our brain. So we're always reacting to the future. We're anticipating a move before it ever happens because we have to. With that being said, if you're going to travel in time, whether forward or backwards, there's no way to do it on a linear path. It has to be on an altered path. Even traveling forward or back, what you're going to say may hold no relevance on that timeline.
That's right.
Maybe. So get this. In 2204, humans supposedly colonize Mars, per Dienach, and send 20 million people to live there before disaster strikes in 2265. Ooh. And they all die. So
all die.
All die. Everybody's dead. So,
on Mars. 20 million?
20 million. 20 million people.
That is a
lot of people.
That is a big catastrophe.
Easy for you to say.
Catastrophe.
Catastrophe. It's a catastrophe.
What's a real catastrophe?
I'll tell you what. Mars, from that point, is left alone. Humans never return. Per Dienach. That's what he's saying.
Interesting.
He's saying, by the year 2265, that's it for Mars.
We're done. Yeah, we killed 26 million people, so there's that.
We're out later. The year 2309 brings war following a disaster and destroys most of civilization, as well as Asians and black people of the world.
What?
That's a part of the story. Like the part of the story is
what?
In the year 2309, war breaks out. It's a disaster. Most of the civilizations don't make it, as well as the Asians and black populations of the world. That's what it says in the story.
That's suspect.
That is suspect. So we do have to kind of take into consideation too of when this was written. When the story supposedly is from. It's from the 1920s. Germans,
Switzerland,
very Aryan. Anyways, it's a fascinating part of the story, and I'm not quite sure why it's even in the story.
I'm going to try and find you a story too. This is just a little side thing. It made me very sad and upset, and it's something similar to this. one time traveler that I was reading said there would be no dogs in the future.
Oh.
And I got real defensive.
Yeah,
I
you
was
were
like,
like,
yeah,
what?
right, buddy. There's going to be a dog.
I'll bring
You
it.
wait. There better be dogs.
Do they mean
Because that's
just
I do not
dogs,
want to be a
or
part.
Does that include wolves?
Like literally the breed of dog will just be gone.
Well,
Like
I mean, we may need him for food in the future.
maybe. I mean,
Cats strike again.
Well, he didn't say anything about cats now, did he?
I know they're the ones that kill the dogs.
Maybe.
Probably some kind of disease or something.
Cats are
Something
actually
happened.
controlling the planet by that time.
Well, I mean, I guess, a lot of animals kind of go extinct. Like every day, don't animals just disappear?
I don't know
off
about
the
every
face of the earth?
day.
Doesn't there something that just goes extinct like at least every year?
You think so? I don't know. You have
Oh,
to.
yeah.
you have
Some
to
little
Google search that.
species, they're the scientists out there in the jungle going, oh, man, little mouse, giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You're
Trying
the
to-
last one.
Trying to blow crystal meth
You're
into
the-
his face. Ooh, come back to me.
This is from the future.
This is future meth.
This is future.
You're going to love it.
Here you go, buddy. Little guy.
Oh,
You're
he
the
made
last
it.
one.
He made it. Oh, no, he's freaking out.
No. Yeah. So you're telling me he's sitting in the hospital and the guys talking to him are like, oh, yeah. And, Asians and blacks, right? They're gone. You used to have them in your
bring it
era.
up. Yeah, they just felt the need to bring it up 2,000 years in the future.
Oh, yeah. Like
Right.
that seems odd.
Yeah. Hey, that's a whole new computer thing. You don't even know what that is in 1922. That's a computer thing. Don't worry about that. And oh my gosh, yeah.
But by the way,
flying cars, don't forget about that. But the Asians,
maybe
the Asians and the blacks are gone. And here's what's interesting. So we had mentioned that the year 2309 is when pretty much all civilization vanished in for the most part. But the humans rebuilt the world, and in the year 2396, they ushered in the establishment of the Global Parliament of Earth of the Global Union of Nations or States. That's a very long title. So I'll one more time. Global
sounds very
Parliament on
governmental.
Earth of the Global Union of Nations or States. Anyways, this is made up of scientists and those in the technological and humanitarian disciplines. This parliament rids the world of money and splits all resources equally. All of the problems of the year 2000, our problems currently, are solved and people live by doing less work.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Josh is in. Josh is like, let's do this.
They got good meth.
The
Inverted
meth.
hot dogs.
Well, we haven't even gotten to the good meth yet. I don't know. Hopefully it's around by 2396. I don't know.
I hope this is okay to bring up. Again, I was reading more about time travelers, and there was this one guy I kept leaning back to. He was saying that he traveled to some far thing in the future, like 3000, I want to say. And he said that money was gone.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Money.
It's a common theme.
Common theme. One thing that he said, though, that I thought was interesting was that computers were running government.
It's funny that you say that. So let's
Yeah.
continue on with our story.
Okay.
Finally, a spiritual renaissance occurs in the year 3382, and a golden age emerges in the year 3400. Everything
This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
Josh? No?
I missed that
So-
reference. All right.
Wrong key.
Yeah,
Wrong key.
Wrong key. Totally off. Sorry, Josh.
Yeah.
We screwed that up for you. I'm sorry. Josh is also like 20 years
Oh,
old
yeah.
on this.
Turn
He's
this
like,
into
what?
a musical.
He's like, what is this? What are
What's
we
the
doing?
dawning of the age of the Aquarius? What?
This sounds stupid.
Guess you had to have been born in the 70s.
Again, the year 3400, everything is free to everyone. And the universal creators take the place of
creators.
The universal creators take the place of technological and scientific leaders. Exactly to what you just said, is that it's ran by
Machine.
machines, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the story of Paul Dienach. That's his whole gist. Just to kind of wrap things up, some claim that Paul Dienach never existed, nor did his student George, stating that it was all a work of fiction. They go on to state that there is no real trace of the original manuscripts, that the original diary was never found because it doesn't exist, that Dienach does not appear in any registry office. It's just a story. a novel full of ideas. I find it interesting that not having an original diary or a manuscript is enough evidence to debunk Paul Dienach's story. For an example, Christianity still to this day remains the world's largest organized religion. With the Earth's population nearing 8 billion people currently, it is estimated that 2.3 billion of those people are Christians. That's over a quarter of the world's population that believe in something that does not have a trace of an original manuscript. Be sure to subscribe to the Created by Human podcast. Leave us a review, a comment, or whether or not you believe in Paul Dienach's fascinating tale. Follow us on our socials at Created by Human. Head over to createdbyhuman.com for additional information, sign up on our mailing list, and check out our Created by Human swag. Does it just sound like gibberish? We'll be back next week with an all-new story that is sure to make you question, is it true or was it